Hi, welcome to Gene Keys with Monifa, your path to vocal superpower. So, I'm starting this series for a few reasons. Number one is because I love the Gene Keys and I wanted to share it with my audience. And I wanted a place where I could also do the work that I need to do with the Gene Keys. I know my own personal profile pretty well, but, what I know about anything that has to do with energy charting and knowing your purpose is that all of the energies are just part of being human. And what we get to do when we first see our own personal profile is know what our own highlighted challenges and superpowers are and our points of genius. But when we get to really delve into the whole of the system, that sets up all of the archetypes that have been known throughout thousands of years for humanity and our lives and how we go about being and living together. Is that you gain such a great understanding for the world, and you also gain a huge sense of compassion and desire to be part of it. That's something that I get from doing so many different kinds of astrology, and why I chose Gene Keys is because it's amazing. Gene Keys is amazing. It gives you this beautiful template of your energy that shows you probably what has historically played out, especially early in your life, around the challenges of your energy. And then it shows you the genius behind that. And what it highlights especially is that there's nothing wrong, right? Your low vibe or shadow is what the Gene Keys calls it, way of showing up in your energy is just so that we can hone the skills that allow us to be a genius and a superpower in our specific kinds of energy. So never poo-poo your shadow. It's there to show you your path to your genius and your capability of being a superpower or powerful person. We are starting with the purpose sphere because it's the purpose. It's why you're here. It's what you're made of. It's how I see it. The gene keys are literally pointing to the DNA structure, the amino acid that is the energy that makes up your being this energy, right? And so like there's no better way to start really exploring, but if you want to do the full golden path, it actually starts in a different area, and takes you through an activation sequence, a Venus sequence, which is about relationships and love, and then a prosperity sequence. So I like to get people started just so they can see what it can look like by going to the vocal superpower chart. But there's a definitely a full gamut of what you can do. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you visit their website with my link. Each key has three levels. Okay, it has the shadow, which has a repressed energy expression side, and it has a reaction, a reactive energy side. I call it low vibe. And then the next level is the gift. So that's where your genius lies. When you are able to know your energy clearly and know the highest possibility for your energy, that's what the gift gives you. Then you are no longer willing to settle for that shadow, right? And so you're going to start your own cells are going to start working on changing whatever story you have to change in order to live out that genius and superpower. The third level is the city, SIDDHI. So, what that represents to me is the service to the world. And I see that in two lights. It's going to be a service to the world in the energy, right? Of how the energy serves the world with or without you. Like there's energy, we're all human, right? And so somebody else has something like that energy in them. And how that energy is serving the world is what the city is, and its highest expression, and it's fully uh, fully realized. I don't know another way to say that, but yeah, it's basically the best world, the best possible world and expression of the service of that energy. A quick caveat. This is how I'm presenting myself to a gene key at any given time. Every time I picked up a gene key, it means something a little different to me. I get a gem every time I do one, and each time I see something different, especially if I have somebody different in front of me, because that story may play out a little differently, and my intuition tends to pick up on that. But also, it's just a deeper exploration of what is, right? And so each time I feel like I get wiser, each time I revisit one of the keys, right? So what I want you to know is that you need to apply your own stories. That's what's going to make this extra special for you. The Gene Keys is not about just knowing your profile and somebody telling you what to do and you following what they said. The Gene Keys is positioned, Richard Rudd made it so that you will take your own stories and see how it's correlated in your life and be able to see your shadow playing out in the stories in your life and see the story of your genius that is becoming in the same stories, right? So you want to take this information and then think about it to yourself. Have I ever seen myself play this out? So even if you don't know your profile yet, you can already gain like great wisdom just because, again, all of this energy is within us. Just some are going to show up as stronger for you than others, right? You're just going to be one where you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's my entire life right there, right? And that's probably going to be one of your purpose spheres. You only have one, but your purpose sphere. So, enjoy it. So, your signature vibration is something that happens when you are so attuned to your own energy. For me, it really happens when I'm highlighting one of my really prominent spheres and keys. And I do my practice. So I do a practice called Get Vocal, which allows you to really feel the vibrations of whatever you're concentrating on. So that can be within your body, that can be externally. But when you're concentrating on what makes you you, there's just kind of this really felt vibe that happens. I can't find another word for it because it's literal. I'm not making that up. You will feel it. You will feel it in your body. You'll feel it in your hands, your feet, your legs, your belly. And then when it's really prominent and when you get really resonant in that frequency, I call that your signature vibration. And life is so worth living in that space because it is why you're here. When you're resonating with the energy that you came to the world with, and it just gets brighter and louder in your own sphere. And so you don't have to worry about things like setting boundaries and even being so much, intention setting, which I know I focus a lot with my clients on because up until now, we haven't had this tool so at hand to really be able to purposefully delve into a specific energy that is set up for you and is you. And one of the things Richard likes to say is that some people ask, well, what does this key mean, right? This is something that you won't see him do a lot is just talk about the keys plainly. It's because he knows that if that's your key, if that's your sphere, then you know better than he does because you have the lived experience of being that energy, right? So he's like, well, you tell me, what is that? What does that feel like when da 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 da? And so remember that. Remember that this is just a starting point, and this is just an invitation for you to go with me on my journey of knowing the keys better. I often keep these things to myself, but I know that you can get so much value out of this, so I want to share this with you. We're going to start with Gene Key 32, line 5. And I am including the lines in these because I think they're vital in seeing how that energy is playing out. And so you can't get the lines in the book, but you can have your own purpose sphere key done by me on this channel. So if you would like to do that, make sure you visit the link in the website and get your Gene Key signature vibe reading. So the first sphere is key 32, which is ancestral reverence. Okay. And the shadow is failure, and the gift is preservation, and the city is veneration. So I chose this as the first one because it's mine. And so it'll give you a little insight into me and why I be. And it'll also, for those of you who have this in your profile, it will give you a little bit more understanding about yours. So the shadow is a failure. And the fear of failure is essentially about the survival of our species, right? So if you failed when we were humans early on, failure meant death. It meant the end of your tribe. It meant the end of your line and your lineage, right? And so failure was literally not an option. It was the end, right? It was the end of you. It was the end of everything you are on the planet. And so in this day and age, it looks a little bit more like money because we have a lot more community and we have a lot more ways of taking care of ourselves. We're not always, even though there are plenty of cultures that are still fighting for their lives, we are not always in danger of other animals, of other tribes, right? Um, but people in war-torn areas might see this a little differently, but it shows up the same way because the underlying uh, thing that we're running from in the shadow is fear, period. Then living and being continued in some way. That can mean in your family by having children or a lineage of having something that you created that outlives you, right? And so that's really like our deepest human desire, right? And so fear is based on that. As we'd rather live and we'd rather our works mean something and live through generations, right? And so it's a big deal, and it comes up, and it tends to cause this desire to cut yourself off from the world, because you want to be safe. And this is how I see it. Again, this is kind of my present interpretation. It would be different tomorrow if I did it again. But that's how it comes up for me. The fear of failure is about like making myself in the shadow is about making myself safe enough that I can't fail, right? And so yeah, so when we are in that energy, there's this genetic just fear of death and money because the programming partner is key 42. So if you know about key 42, the underlying fear there is of dying, right? So you're seeing how these are tied together. And Richard Rudd talks about how this is the historical fear or dislike, hate of death and taxes, right? So remember that. And he says that whenever you have that fear come up, and I have tried this and it does seem to work, especially with my practices of breath and voice, that if you ever start worrying, right, about survival of some kind, which is usually money, if you start worrying about money, but any kind of survival. So if you are in that war-torn situation, that if you're trying to survive, that you breathe, you smile to yourself, let that be a body trigger, and you remember your ancestors. And it connects you to the lineage you're already a part of. Like you're already a miracle. It's already, what is it, like a 10 million, 10 billion chance of you being on the planet just out of the circumstances of your ancestors before you, right? So it seems to connect me into a way that I can't deny that I'm already successful because my ancestors were successful in bringing me here, and now I'm here doing things that they probably could never imagine, like talking to a computer, for however many people show up to this video. So on the repressive side of this shadow, it looks like fundamentalism, and it's just this sense of like tightening and choking off your venues for any kind of interaction, out of the need to be safe, right? And so you cut yourself off from the community and you end up cutting yourself off from the ability to feel, love from the community emotionally. And you end up cutting yourself off from the possibility of a loving or an equal value exchange in the sense of financial wealth or income. On the reactive side, this looks like being disjointed. And so you tend to basically say that you're the only person that can help you because you're the only person that cares. There's nobody else that is supporting you, and you just feel like there's nothing that that nobody cares about you, right? And this is, again, I know this from personal experience. So you just feel like I'm on my own. Nobody's gonna, help me but me. That's just the way it is, right? And when we do that, we cut ourselves off from what is true, which is that we are connected to the world and the environment around us. So that's our communities and the people in that community. And that includes nature. Like, so if, I know when I get in that vein, I forget about nature. And nature is like a huge love of mine. Um, and when you cut yourself off from nature, just stop feeling alive, right? And if especially if you're in this energy, right? And so it's a huge indicator that you're in your shadow when you don't want to interact with anybody or anything. Um, so when you're in that shadow, there's a chance for your gift. So your gift is preservation, and it's going beyond the selfishness of just, I have to take care of myself and I'm the only one that will, right? It goes beyond that, right? And it's really about seeing what's worth your time, what's worth investing your time in, what's worth continuing out into the world. And we can see what to keep alive, right? And what I love about this is that it's so true because when I'm really looking out and I'm really appreciating what is and what the possibilities are, I have so much opportunity in front of me. It's almost overwhelming because I know there are so much beauty that if people could just be a witness to it, that their lives would be so much better, right? And so it's this powerful instinct of what to keep alive and what to let go of. That's another thing. Like, I'm the first person to say, like, we got to let go of something, right? If it's too hard, you got to let go of something. It's too heavy, you got to let go of something, right? And so that's my purpose in the world is to show people what to keep alive and to what to let go of. And it can look like in your purpose, right? You have this definition of purpose that always means that you're doing something specific, like a career path or a some kind of job. Yeah. And and that's not what your purpose is about. Your purpose is your energy, and your energy can play out in any job. It's just a matter of like what were your life experiences that led you to the work that you're doing, and then how can you feel alive and purposeful in that work, in that business, in that career, right? Because once that happens, then nobody can take that from you, and then it's just about how much more can I do? And then all of a sudden your value is inevitable because you're like, well, I need to do more. So if I can get somewhere or a better job that'll let me do more, if I can build a business that'll allow me to do more, right? Then it becomes really clear on how to move forward. And so that's what we want. We want to remember what to keep and what to let go of. And so in the city, uh I want to say one more thing about the gift. If you're connected to nature, it's going to really give you this sense of what is what is real, what is worthy, right? And I'm very clear on that when I'm in nature. There's nothing, I don't get confused on on things like, what's my next choice to make, which is really easy to get confused on when you're the only one that's really doing all the things, right? But if you're connected into nature, you'll start connecting into the world and you'll realize, well, I can let this person take care of this and then I'll focus on this part. And it starts being so overwhelming, right? And it lets you be in harmony with the natural flow that's already existing in your community, in your environment, in your possibilities of your energy. And that's where you want to be in your gift. The city of veneration is about the full realization of where you stand in the lineage of your gifts, of your work, right? So all of our work looks a little bit different. So we're gonna talk a little about how the line influences that. But here, it's really about seeing that you can see your connection to even the small blade of grass and the little ants on the grass, and how it correlates with your life, right? And then how the greatest of us, those that have been fully realized on the spiritual ladder, people and spirits like Jesus and Buddha, right? And see how, where we stand in that lineage of spirituality, right? And so when you're fully connected in and you're fully feeling and resonant in this energy of He 32, then this is what you get to realize. And it's you get this sense of deep reverence for everything, for everything. And you feel your connection and your ability to serve in that lineage. Line 5 is voice and frequency. And it looks like the voice and frequency coming from the activation sequence. And it looks like being a leader or a victim coming into the Venus sequence, right? And so voice frequency, that element of your line is about your nervous system. That's how we connect into being here and on the planet. It's a nervous system, and the voice being the realization of breath. And I always talk about voice like this, that breath is unsensed. It's part of the air, and then you breathe it in, and then the air is part of you, right? But then the voice is the realization of breath, right? You take the breath and then you speak a tone, and then a vibration happens, right? And so I call it the fastest way to practice manifestation is to work with your voice, because of this reason. Because every time you speak, every time you sing, you're practicing what you thought should come out to what actually comes out, right? And so being clear and intentional and present and in flow and connected to your energy and the world and your intentions and the outcome, while being present to love and life and happiness, is a constant practice for me, and something I think is what has made my life infinitely better over these last few years. And so yes, so in the voice archetype, it really helps us to do some kind of voice practice, whether that's using tone, like chanting or singing. You can hum even, but you want to have some kind of voice practice that is something that you do regularly to bring you back to this just sense of beingness, of purposefulness, of liveliness, right? And so that's something that I recommend for anybody with a line 5 in their purpose sphere. Okay. It also, in your path and your relationship with others of this Venus sequence, it's got the shadow side of being a victim, and then the gift side, or the higher vibration side of being a leader, right? So when we're in the shadow, we tend to be lost in self pity, and we tend to feel so bad and so disconnected that we can even decide to make somebody else feel the same and make another person feel like a victim with our words and our voice, right? And we were very clear on how to do that. If you're anything like me, like you can see the whole scenario playing out in your head, and hopefully, you know, hopefully you had some amazing parents that made you choose something else, Or maybe not. Maybe you had a better path than me and you learned how to voice and you decided earlier that you didn't want to be that person instead of holding on to it so much and then kind of self recriminating and making myself smaller in order to not be that person, right? That of attacking people and making them feel like a victim. Either way, the energy is trying to play out so that you can see your possibility of leadership. Because when you're in the victim energy in that shadow, then all you're doing is living in this illusion, right? Because you have this genius and you have this superpower on the right on the other side, and it's just the lack of knowledge, maybe, or the forgetting of that truth that allows you to feel in any way that you are a victim or that we are victims, because I often feel the same way. If you're living in the strength of being a leader, then you can see clearly. You get to see just as clearly as you saw like the way to say something that would make somebody else feel like a victim. You can see clearly how to help somebody, right? And the high vibration and the strength of this line. And so, and just as clearly, you set out to create clarity instead of confusion and letting other people fall into the illusion of victimhood. You're creating clarity and helping people understand and empower themselves, right? And so, just the practicalness of your mind helps you see how we let codependence turn us into victims, and then how to lead people into an authentic presenting to our truth of being empowered and in some version of leadership for everybody, but especially us. Those who are in the fifth, who have a line five, you are a born leader, right? Especially in this purpose sphere. And so if you're in the victim, if you're in low vibration, you can recognize if you're like complaining a lot. And I don't know about anybody else, but that's definitely me. I can complain, maybe not out loud. I don't like to bother people a lot of times, but in my head, I'm like, blah, 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 and so it doesn't matter if it's internal or external. Either way, if you're complaining, then feeling sorry for yourself, then you're in that victim sphere, right? If you're in self-awareness and you're able to see yourself clearly and you can see how people blame each other for their emotions, then you're on your way to being a leader. And one of the beautiful things about the strength of this line is that your voice, when you're in your gift, is magnetic. People will stop and they will listen to you if you are in the vibration, your signature vibration of your gift. Thank you for joining me on our first Gene Key broadcast with Monifa, Journey to Vocal Superpower. I am looking forward to doing your Gene Key, so don't forget to find your profile from the free source and get a free broadcast with your sphere, your purpose sphere, and your line. So this is where you find your sphere on your Gene Key profile. Remember to my affiliate link in the information under the video, and then you can get a free profile. Once you get your profile, you're going to look for the bottom sphere all the way at the bottom, and it's the purpose one. And it'll give you two numbers. It's got 40.1 on this slide, right? So just you want both numbers. So in the key 32, line 5, then our voices of leadership are trying to play out to preserve what is needed and to let go of what is not needed when it comes to showing up in our power in the world. Okay? Having both is going to really help you hone and find those stories, right? Of your shadow, of like what may be playing out in that victimhood of the 32 line 5. What's playing out is that sense of never being good enough, of failing and not and feeling like other people are causing you to fail, and that, because as a victim, it's usually in your head it's somebody else's fault. Like if somebody had just done this thing, or if somebody had just supported me, then I could, or I would, or I can, right? But then so what you want to do, allowing for this understanding that everything is going to feel like failure, So that's helpful right there, because even if you're in your shadow and you just realize, well, as long as I'm in this energy, nothing's going to feel successful, right? Then you can stop being so hard on yourself. I can't wait to do your Gene Key and line on our channel. So subscribe to the channel and don't forget to send me your purpose sphere key and line. Thank you so much for joining me on our first exploration of the Gene Keys, 32 line 5, ancestral reverence, and the voice frequency. So I hope to see you on the next one. Make sure to go ahead and get your profile and to send it in and let me be able to do a video for you so that you can have a next step to knowing your energy more clearly. I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye. So now I'm going to do a vocal contemplation of Gene Key 32, line 5. Ah, 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 I hope you liked it. I'll see you next time.